Hello everyone and welcome. Sit back, relax, make a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and get ready for new stories from Yellowcat. Send your own favorite stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Let's get started. When did you know you had to resign from your job? Working in IT, someone new joins the team as an engineer. We end up becoming pals. Because we're a small department, our CTO and managers frequently say that everyone in IT is a family and that everyone supports one another. CTO makes up his mind not to like new guy. CTO begins requiring department to remain divided. Operations and engineering cannot communicate unless necessary. The new guy updates firmware on something which CTO finds objectionable. After 89 days of probation, the new guy is fired and thrown under the bus. I'm called into an official disciplinary hearing with the HR director. Why did I ever help new guy with anything is one of the questions they ask me. Things I did to assist him: gave him our server's host names and IP addresses. He would ask me, what server is our blank when he came to me. He already had a list of passwords, so I would tell him our default passwords for different systems, such as server A is password 2. Tell him which server is on which rack, how to access our knowledge base, and other details. Alternatively, I once or twice restarted a device upon request, a standard procedure for multiple products. I said that we're IT, and I felt like we were a family, and that if someone came to me with a question, I would try my best to help them. For an hour, this line of inquiry continued with particulars taken from emails and Spark. On a Friday, I was told to consider my role in the company and whether or not I was a team player before returning home. On my way out the door, I called my recruiter and scheduled a job interview for that same day. A month later, I changed jobs and was earning $20,000 more annually. Guess I'm not good at working in a team. I started an apprenticeship at the age of 16 working for a small company that brought authors into schools for events like World Book Day. I was working Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. for around £100 a week, which was essentially slave labor at around £2 an hour. Goes without saying that the work experience and college credentials were meant to be the primary advantages. There was another apprentice there when I arrived. The owner of the company called me into his office and explained that employees frequently worked through their lunch breaks even though they were only given 30 minutes. He implied that he expected me to do the same and advised me to pack sandwiches so I could eat them at my desk and finish working on my own schedule. First red flag raised. He took me into his office for a couple of hours to do some bizarre form of speech therapy, repeating the alphabet to me and trying to get me to pronounce the letters differently, telling me that my accent was too strong to be on the phones. The second red flag. My whole task was to use Google Maps to zoom in on a region of the UK and search for schools within a specified radius in order to compile spreadsheet lists of the relevant data because I was not permitted to use a phone. It was tedious, time-consuming, and very exhausting. After a few days, he brought the other apprentice and I into the office and informed us that one of us was going to be fired. I thought my parents would be upset if I simply wanted to quit because they believed at the time that I didn't want to work at all. I crossed my fingers. He fired the other girl in front of me, acting like an apprentice in a scene. Later, we learned that he was hiring apprentices for a few weeks to handle administrative tasks and then firing them before the actual course fees were due because they never made it to the point where they had to enroll or attend the course 1 day a week. The third red flag. Another day, he asked me to sit in his office while he spoke with his staff about the business's finances and other matters. Makes sense that he didn't want me to hear, but he actually left me sitting in his office for a good 2 hours. He once poked his head in and told me to take a book off the shelf if I was bored. Being an author, he had thousands of books scattered all over the place. The fourth red flag. Eventually, during the second week, the room full of mostly obese and pig-eating employees would make me gather all of their plates, cups, cutlery, etc. and go into the small bathroom at the end of the office to wash everything. When I finally had enough, on Friday, I left my keycard on my desk and my parents filed a report against him for allegedly abusing the scheme and essentially attempting to obtain free labor. When I left, he refused to pay me for the previous week. A week or so later of no contact and ignoring all of my mom's emails, my dad ended up going down there and threatening to take him to small claims court. They tried to close the door in his face and lock it, but he put his foot in the gap as it was being slammed shut and demanded my pay. Needless to say, the money was in my account within the hour. Resigned the day before Black Friday, back in the days when retail establishments celebrated Black Friday. Worked for a high-end bath and skincare company that provided gift baskets and specialized gift wrapping. I had made great sales, was amiable with everyone, and had a thorough understanding of my clientele and product lines. I was always going above and beyond, staying late without getting paid extra, for example. I had the same responsibilities as the assistant manager, but without the official title or raise. Preparation for Black Friday is incredibly hectic the week before. Arriving early, remaining late, not taking breaks, etc. Everyone was therefore quite worn out. For the holidays, we brought in thick wrapping paper with a gold embossed design to add a special touch to the gifts that customers purchased. Although the paper was lovely, it was extremely thick, difficult to work with, and did not bend or fold easily at all. So, the evening before Black Friday, as the store is closing, a woman comes in and asks to have her purchases gift wrapped. To ensure that everything folds neatly and smoothly, I'm wrapping slowly. When the manager notices this, she approaches me and chastises me for being sluggish or incapable of wrapping a gift. She pulls the partially wrapped gift away from me as I'm trying to explain about the new paper, and the paper tears. She said something like, "Oh, look what you did. You ruined that expensive paper now, etc." She then turned to face the customer and shook her head, saying, "I'll wrap this for you now instead. It's so hard finding good help." Like she's the poor victim of staff with incompetence. She then looks away from me and gives me the "begone" half-wave hand gesture without saying anything, the same as in Devil Wears Prada. However, this occurred a few years prior to the release of that film. I was done. So done. I have never experienced such contempt and denigration from anyone before. Even the client appeared shocked, but she remained silent. That evening, I departed and we never communicated again. I feel bad for leaving my coworkers on Black Friday, so I checked in with them. They said it was great that the manager had to come in and help for once since I wasn't there. Ultimately, that store came dangerously close to going out of business, and most of their retail locations closed. When I see their producers randomly at TJ Maxx sometimes, it makes me smile. I worked as a software developer, hired for my expertise in animation and video compression knowledge for a company developing a $30 million computer-based training application for a military weapon system. The bid specifically stated Windows 3.51 NT. The solution was developed using Delphi, and when NT 4.0 came out a few months before delivery, enabling other components to integrate with it, the US Army wanted the upgrade. It only took an IDE checkbox flip to make it compatible with 4.0, but the company wanted another $30 million to make it compatible with Windows NT 4.0. Yes, it was a negotiation, and they would stand firm at $20 million. I argued this and other technical details with my boss until he showed me the contract indicating only 3.51 after I proved the 4.0 flip would work. About that same time, a previous employer contacted me about another position, and I jumped, but they said I had to be ready in 1 week. I told my current boss I would give him enough time to train someone part-time over the following 2 weeks after the new job start date, while pleading with the new employer I should give 2 weeks' notice to the current employer. Instead, the original boss just fired me on the spot in a fit of rage, giving me a day to clear out, while the new job said, "Well, that's okay, take 3 weeks. So, I went 3 weeks without pay, and debt ensued along with a bit of personal pain. The original employer went out of business in 18 months, predictable in my view, and the new employer was on the top 10 best places to work several times over the next 20 years. Just to make it more delicious, on the day I cleared my desk from the old employer, my boss admitted the guy he hired for my replacement confirmed my conclusions about video compression technology details we were arguing about. I think he was trying to get me to change my mind. Could you share about a negative experience you have had with a homeowners association? I rent out my condo to a few tenants. The HOA sent us a notice stating that we would be fined if we didn't clear the clutter off the patio. When I asked the tenants to clear the clutter, they assured me they would. I didn't even try to enter to take a closer look at the patio. I got another notice to clear the patio of clutter a week later. When I informed the tenants, they said they had rearranged everything, but that nothing could be moved because it was all outside. All they had, they said, was a bicycle, a barbecue, and a few potted plants. I thus paid the condo a visit. It turned out that a single bicycle, a small charcoal barbecue, and a few potted plants were situated on the ledge. On the other hand, the neighbor downstairs had a tiny path leading to the front door, and their patio was completely filled with boxes. Our patio was spotless, but the downstairs neighbor's patio was piled high with trash, so I snapped pictures of both and sent them an email telling them they must have the wrong unit. Upon receiving a notification that it is against the law to have potted plants on the ledge, I did not receive an apology. Thus, I asked the tenants to relocate them to the floor. A week later, I get a notice that the potted plants caused water damage to the ledge and I will be fined. I had to tell them that damage from watering plants in round pots would likely appear to be round and under the locations where the plants were, not in the area where the downspout they manage is leaking onto a poorly maintained railing they are responsible for maintaining. I hoofed my A back to the condo and took photos of the damage in one corner near the drain spout from the roof. Then, since all of the other railings in our building seemed to have the same damage from neglect, I asked them when they planned to come fix the damage to the railing. That's when I stopped receiving notifications. A few months later, I did get a notification regarding exterior repairs to railings and painting occurring, so I've got that win, I guess. Getting bits and pieces secondhand from my mom, so details might be off. People plan for this huge neighborhood with parks and other things, and that's where my mom built her dream house. When the building began, she signed an HOA agreement. The development company lost most of the money they had when they finished building her house. A couple of houses have already been built, and more are being built slowly as people buy plots, but it's not even close to what was promised. The developers are giving my mom a hard time about the chicken she started raising because it's banned in the HOA agreement she signed, but they don't currently have an HOA board or an HOA management company, so there's no one to actually enforce it. They don't pay dues right now. I told her to create the board and vote to allow chickens, which she's looking into now. The last house I lived in was in an HOA/covenant. They had no idea I was in their area. The homes across the street and the block over were not part of it. You could park your car in the street and walk 3 blocks to get to the train station if you wanted to. I get a letter in the mail one day telling me I had to pay to park an RV illegally at my house. I call them because I can't see anything outside. They won't give up because they have proof that it's mine. They laugh and tell me they wish they had enough money to buy an RV so I wouldn't have to live in their little S-hole. After 2 days, I find out who owns the RV and have proof that I don't have it. They tell me they'll not charge me the fee as a favor. The next month, I get a ticket and a fine for leaving my car outside. Behind my house, just a foot or two over the line, there's a wrecked Volvo. I tell them that the car isn't mine when I get to the office. They really want proof that it's not mine. I promise to show them at the next meeting. This coming week, I show up to the meeting with my lease, which lists all of my cars and copies of both my registration and my wife's registration. A nearby police officer also did me a favor and ran the plates for me. All I needed was a name and address. He did one better and found the owner and asked him to come to the meeting. They start the meeting by going over the violations, then they call me up. They look over the papers I give them and then ask for proof that I don't own the car. They argue that they are the ones who have to pay, even though I try to explain that. The owner then stands up, says he owns the car, and shows them proof. Then they ask him to show proof that I don't own the car. Once the fine was dropped because the car had already been taken away, they asked if I had anything else to say. I raised the motion to replace their enforcement officer with a trained money that would cost them less and do the job better. Just so happens that 70% of the owners were at that meeting. They agreed with my proposal and gave it their full support. Apparently, they were all fed up with the stupid antics of the board, but no one dared to speak out. Of course, under the threat of losing power, the board began to demand that I immediately left, but the people were on my side. So, one ordinary meeting of the HOA changed everything. The old members of the board, under the threat of a collective complaint, gave up and left their positions. A new and much better board was elected. Thank you for subscribing, the likes, and comments. We're very happy to see you all in the comments too. Thanks for your support.